ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء فاتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله جل في العلا وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. And we were speaking about a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about the foundations of the Shahada, the foundations of the Kalimatayn, those two words that are uttered to validate one's Islam. And we talked about when one utters the testimony, La ilaha illallah wa Muhammadar Rasulullah. As you know, a lot of Muslims, they utter this testimony. And despite of that, they do not know what it entails and what is binding upon them, what they utter it. As we talked about before, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, so many khutab and so many reminders that the mushrikeen during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they had more knowledge of this affair in regards to what's pertaining to what validates the Shahada or nullifies it than some of the Muslims in these days. That's the reason why they didn't utter it. Because they knew once they uttered it, what would be binding upon them to carry out. So they had knowledge of the affair. That's when they what? That's why they were so hesitant to utter it, because they knew what would be binding upon them and what would have to be carried out if they was to truly utter that verbally upon their tongue. In regards to the Muslims these days, especially for those who lack the knowledge of these matters, especially the fundamentals, you'll find that they fall into all types of atrocities, all types of affairs that clearly oppose what Allah has sent down, due to ignorance or due to them growing up in an environment where deviation is prevalent and it was taught in their minds until they were nurtured upon those type of ideologies, until they grasp those concepts thinking that's part of the religion, but in actuality it isn't. It's in total opposition to it. But it may be they grew up in an environment that maybe perhaps those ulama usu, those evil scholars who have been affected by all the affairs of deviation and all the affairs that affects one's aqidah, one's belief system, they grew up in that environment and they were affected and they were taught something that was incorrect by those misguided scholars who have a perverted understanding of Islam until they embraced it thinking it's the truth, but it isn't. So those are some of the reasons why some of the Muslims are upon some deviant, perverted understanding of the religion of Islam, not understanding the fundamentals properly. What comes as a result of it, all types of atrocities and all types of evil acts emanates. And it manifests in the actions of the people. And when I say the people here, specifically, I'm talking about the Muslims. For verily, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, we were talking about the shahadatain. And the shahada, or what we were speaking about, was when a person utters MasjidArRazzaaq Rasulullah. We talked about is binding upon one once he utters it. What does it mean? What is binding upon you now once you say it? Because people say it, but in their actions and even in certain statements, you'll find if you was to contemplate on it, it contradicts, and in certain actions and statements, it invalidates MasjidArRazzaaq Rasulullah. It invalidates it based upon certain statements and actions. For verily, as we were speaking about, and I don't have a lot of time because the khutbah has to be short today due to the fact that Al-Asr is about to come in soon. But as we said in the last khutbah, فثبوت العبادة إذا يتوقف على الدليل من جهتين. ثبوت الدليل الدال على مشروعية تلك العبادة. For worship being established, it hence has to be established upon an evidence. Upon an evidence. And that evidence is from two aspects. Number one, that evidence is authentically reported. Not weak, not fabricated, like what the Sufis do. That the Sufis rely upon fabricated lies and hadith and stories, fabricated stories and tales. And they try to worship and justify what they do based upon some fabricated, unauthenticated evidence and proof. So we said, ثبوت الدليل الدال على مشروعية تلك العبادة. That evidence has been established and affirmed and authentically reported. And authentically what? Established that Allah Ta'ala has either said it or His Messenger has said it. That takes precedence before anyone's statement. Ka'inan man kan. That evidence which comes in the book of Allah or in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and when I say Sunnah, the authentic Sunnah. The authentic Sunnah. Not that which the Sufis do, who try to now worship Allah based upon fabricated lies, that hadith that has not been established and affirmed that our messenger truly said it. So that's number one. That has been firmly established. Because if that was the case, what makes us different from the Jews and the Christians who worship Allah based upon fabricated ahadith and fabricated tales? What comes in their book? Because what they have has been lost, hasn't been preserved. And now some of the Sufis, when they come now to worship Allah based upon some fabricated evidence, you follow in the Sunnah of the Jews and the Christians. Because they do the exact same thing. They worship Allah based upon fabricated lies and evidences, and based upon what they feel and their opinions and their whims and their desires and what they feel to be right and what they feel to be wrong. What makes you a difference now? What's the difference? That's why those who cling to what is correct and what has been sent down from Allah Ta'ala, they follow this criteria precisely and accurately. What is that criteria? We follow the authentic evidences and proofs that has been sent down from your Lord, in which Allah has commanded. Ittabi'u ma unzila ilaykum min rabbikum wa la tattabi'u min dunihi awliya qalilan ma tadhakkarun. Follow what has been sent down from your Lord, from the kitab and the authentic sunnah. Don't follow besides that awliya. And the meaning of awliya here, it is comprehensive for your whims, for your desires, for your intellect, for people's statements and other people's statements. Giving precedence to that over what Allah and His Messenger says, you have followed what is besides Allah of those other awliya. And that's the meaning of the ayah. Firmly has to been established in kitab and sunnah, that evidence. Then when you say Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, that you're giving precedence to what Allah and His Messenger says over everyone in the dunya. Ka'inan man kan. No matter who it is. Even if he's the greatest scholar in the dunya. Allah and his messenger gives precedence over anyone. That is our religion, and that is what is from the fundamentals. And a true scholar would never, ever bring a statement on purpose that opposes what Allah and his messenger said. Rather, what their evidence and what they say, they're using what Allah and his messenger says to substantiate what they say. That's the fundamentals when you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Do a lot of the Muslims understand that, comprehend that? When you listen to their statements and actions, they're still not grasping the concept. May Allah wa ta'ala aid us, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Alhamdulillahi wahdahu wassalatu wassalam ala man la nabiyya ba'dahu wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tamassaka bi sunnatihi ila yawm ad-din wa sallama tasliman kathira amma ba'd. For number one, we said thubut ad-dalil. The evidence has been established and authentically reported. Ad-dali ala mashru'iyyati tilka al-ibadah. That evidence and proof establishes and indicates the legislation of that worship. Meaning, you don't do the act first and then look for the evidence. No, you look for the evidence first. Make sure that is what substantiates what you do. Not the opposite, what a lot of people do. I'll do it, then try to look in Kitab and Sunnah to find what can validate what I'm doing. No, it's the opposite. You look for the evidence first. The evidence takes precedence. Then you do the act. Especially in the affairs of the ibadah. And that's pertaining to the ibadat. That's pertaining to the affairs of worship because they're the most sacred. Because we know that the asl fil ibadat al-mana' wa tawaqquf. That the origin and the affairs of worship is that everything is impermissible until you find something in Kitab and Sunnah that validates that particular worship. Because the affairs of worship are the most sacred and the most vital. Because that was what every human being was created for. That's why they're considered the most sacred. And you hear what I'm saying, it's like, man, everything you say makes sense. Yes, it does. That's what Kitab and Sunnah does. When the person understands and knows how to disseminate, it goes along with the fitrah. It goes along with the natural disposition of the human being. And it says that absolutely does make sense. When you go to those deviant masajid, they're the ones causing confusion. And you hear like, what are you talking about? That's confusing. But when you hear clarity of Kitab and Sunnah, you're like, that absolutely makes absolute sense. What Allah sent down is clear in regards to the Kitab and Sunnah. Listen to what it goes on to say. That's the first aspect. You look to see whether or not the evidence has been authentically reported in Kitab and Sunnah, which absolutely makes sense. Because if that was the case, what makes us different from the Jews and Christians? That worship Allah based upon fabricated narrations. Fabricated lies, and then try to justify it with their own desires and feelings, or saying, I don't understand it that way. That's number one. Number two, making sure that that action has been what? That has been established and what is authentically reported. That's number one. Number two, once now, you have now understood that that particular ibadah or that worship has been established and that His law and His messenger has said it, or they have legislated it, what is it now binding upon you? It's binding upon you to now leave off everything that contradicts it. For example, once now, what comes along with that particular worship, I'm going to give it another example. I'm going to give examples. Because as they say, بِالْمِثَالِ يَتَّضِحُ بِهِ الْمَقَامِ. Once you give examples, now the whole affair becomes what? Clear. So now, once that affair has been established, authentically reported, فَيَخْرُجُ بِذَلِكَ إِثْبَاتِ الْعِبَادَةِ بِحَدِيثٍ أو نص غير صحيح أو برأي أو برأي أحد أو بالمنامات أو بالكشوفات أو بالأذواق أو نحو ذلك. So now, once that has been authentically reported and that affair has been established, now it's incumbent upon one to remove all the affairs of worship that was substantiated by evidence that has not been affirmed. Meaning that you cannot use some weak text as an evidence. Or try to now bring something of an action that you're trying to say that I can draw close to Allah by either now someone's opinion comes. I know Allah and His Messenger said that, but what I think or what I say, once a person says that, know for sure he or she has lost their mind. Because when you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, that means you take everybody's opinion and you throw it in the garbage if it opposes Allah and His Messenger. That's what it means when you say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. These are from the affairs what comes along when you utter that statement. You can't say so-and-so said this. Yeah, but I know the Imam Malik said this. Imam Shafi'i said this. Imam so-and-so said this. Or my Imam at the masjid said this. Or so-and-so in the street said that. Oh yeah, but that scholar, every scholar knows. And just like Imam Malik said in his tremendous statement, كُلٌّ يُؤْخَذُ مِنْ قَوْلِهِ وَيُرَدْ إِلَّا صَاحِبُ هَذَا الْقَبْرِ. Everyone's statement, وَمَا مِنْ قَوْلٍ وَمَا مِنَّا إِلَّا هُوَ رَادٌ وَمَرْدُودٌ عَلَيْهِ إِلَّا صَاحِبُ هَذَا الْقَبْرِ. There's no one from amongst us except that we can refute that statement or we could be refuted. Or our statements can be accepted or rejected except the statement of that man who's buried. And we know Imam Malik was the Imam of Medina. And he was pointing to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. He said that man's statement is never rejected. His statement takes precedence over mine's. Is it clear? Don't say it. Just listen. So you hear what Imam Malik has said. My statement can be either what? Accepted or rejected. Except that man is buried right there. And he was pointing at the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. Fundamentals. Basics. You see the Muslims do it? No, that they'll say, no, Imam Malik prayed like this. The Prophet ﷺ prayed like this. Whose statement am I taking? Based upon what you just heard. Basic fundamentals. No, but Imam Malik did it. What did the Prophet ﷺ do? What did Sahaba do? But Imam Malik prayed like that. Yahi, these are basic fundamentals that I'm just reading to you in the khutbah. The Prophet ﷺ prayed like this. It's clear. Then we just say with Imam Malik, there's no one from amongst us except his statement can either what? Be accepted or rejected. Except that man's statement there. And he was pointing to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. Clear. Clear as the sun in the sky. So now for it comes to evidence that's been authentically reported. Number one, the evidence has to be authentic. Number two, remove everything that opposes it. Meaning from a text that has not been authentically reported. Or the opinion of anyone. No matter who it is. Or by visions that are so-called seen. Like what Paul did with Jesus. with the Christians, where we know that Paul was a mujrim. He was a criminal. And Paul said that if I had a vision that I said such and such. Now you see that the majority of the Christians are misled by the what? By the message of Paul. And you'll find that Paul, as they'll find you saying, you'll find that even the scholars of Christianity today say this. They say that the most influential man that lived on this earth was Muhammad, number one. Number two was Paul. Then it was Jesus, the son of Mary. Why? Because the majority of the Christians follow the message of Paul, not Jesus. The message that he was God, or he was a part of God, or he was the son of God, or he was the third of three. That was what Paul came with, that nonsense. And Paul, as we know, was a criminal. He was plotting against Jesus, the son of Mary. He was a criminal. You know, as they compare Paul to Abdullah ibn Saba al-Yahudi, because we know Paul was a Jew. That's the facts. And I'm not saying based upon my opinion. That's what the history establishes. He was a Jew. He was also plotting against Jesus. He was plotting to distort his message, and he did it. He wanted to destroy his message, and he did it until he brought polytheism inside of his monotheistic message. He brought polytheism inside of it. Abdullah ibn Saba al-Yahudi al-Yamani, the one who was the starter of the Khawarij, who's still the fitna of today, and he's also the founder of the Shia and the Rawafid, who still are today. He was a Jew, and he claimed to what? Destroy the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, he didn't carry it out because the message is still intact. Paul is now equal to Abdullah ibn Saba. As Shaykh al-Islam mentions, Paul to Jesus was Abdullah ibn Saba to us, the starter of the Khawarij and the Shia Rawafid. However, the difference between Abdullah ibn Saba and Paul changed the message of Jesus. He corrupted it. And that's who the Christians follow today. The concepts and the distortions and the alterations of Paul. In contrast to Abdullah ibn Saba, he did not change the religion of Islam. Allah protected it. So any type, and we know that Paul, from his deviation and from his corruption of the Risala, of the messengership of Jesus, he said, I seen visions. Oh, I had a vision. That's unacceptable. We can't worship Allah based upon someone saying, I had a vision, like what the Sufis do. Also, when people say that when they went to sleep and I had a dream, unacceptable. Unacceptable. Or what I deem to be good, or what I feel, that's also unacceptable when Allah and His Messenger has clearly established an affair. وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَن يَكُونَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِمْ. It is not for a believing male and a believing female. If Allah and His Messenger have decided an affair that they will have some other choice from themselves or from their own whims or desires or what they deem to be right and wrong. And whoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger has gone clearly astray. Affairs is clear. Fundamentals. And this is what the Muslims are lacking, and this is what the deviant masajid are not teaching you guys. And that's the reason why their communities are in the turmoil it's in now, because they have turned away from what would truly rectify the Muslims. They'll never speak about these affairs. Why? We want the sadaqah box to be filled, and I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. That's the da'wah of the prophets and the messengers. Do you think they cared or whether or not people's feelings was getting hurt when they were commanding the good, forbidding the evil? Because once Allah has sent any prophets and messengers, as we know, the great, when Khadijah had her what? Waraqa ibn Nawfal. When the Prophet ﷺ was about to start his mission, the blind one, And they say that the majority of Ahl-Ilm say he was a Sahabi. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the angel Jibreel came to me. And he said to him, this is the statement that he said. He said, there's not been no prophet from the prophets there were that came with what you came with the truth, except he was harmed. There was going to be adversaries. You're going to have a nemesis. You're going to have enemies. There's no way you cannot uphold the truth and disseminate it to the people, except you're going to have people that's going to what? People out there that's going to hate you. You can't try to please everyone just to keep a sadaqah box filled. That's what those masajid do. Which in actuality, they don't care about your hereafter. Because sometimes when you give people medicine, sometimes it's sour. It's hard to swallow. But at the end, the final outcome is that you're ready for death when you meet your Lord. And your soul is purified. You're ready now. Not someone that wants to say a dalil and try to hide certain things and circumvent and go around things just to please the people. So I can keep the sadaqah box filled, so I can live lavishly in comfort for the rest of my life. And I don't care about the people's souls and where they end up or what condition their heart is in. What kind of rectifier is that? And those are the type of people who the Muslims like to give their money to. People that don't care about their hereafter. That's the reality. But the people who care, sacrifice, establish and doubt the Salafiyah and Sunnah and Tawheed and Aqeedah, Salafiyah. Oh, we ain't going there. Take this little 50 cent, get out my face. It's jacked up, isn't it? That's the circumstances. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all better. These are basic fundamentals we need to what? Establish. Keep in mind. And I'm going to give examples next week. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. نسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يرينا بأسمائه الحسنى وصفاته العلى يرينا الحق حقا ويرزقنا اتباعه ويرينا الباطل باطلا ويرزقنا اجتنابه وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وقيم الصلاة